Hello, everyone. We're Sky and Mackayla, and today we're here with Isabella, a music journalist from Dublin. Welcome to the Soundtrack of Our Lives podcast. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is the first time I've ever done a podcast, so I'm really looking forward to it.
That's exciting.
That's exciting, yeah. So do you want to start by telling us a little bit more about yourself and how you fell in love with the music industry?
Wow, okay. I guess I should start from kind of the beginning then, because it's been I've had music in my life for as long as I can remember, but the first time I really remember falling in love with music was when I was about 10. I'd been going through a bit of a rough time, and I reached out to a family member and I was like, hey, do you have any music that's like better than what's on the radio? And he was like, yeah, here, listen to the Foo Fighters. And so once I kind of got into the Foo Fighters, it was I started kind of getting into the more emo scene at the time. So that was like 2011. So that was like Ripe, Sleeping with Sirens, Bring Me the Horizon, Pierce the Veil, stuff like that. So yeah, and you get it. The emo phase never ended, honestly. I literally remember telling my mom when I was about 12 years old, she's like, okay, you want to dye your hair and I'll do this. I'm like, it's not a phase, Mom. And yeah. But ultimately, I was also a writer at the same time. I've always loved writing. So for me, I never really thought there was a possibility for me to have a career in music because I was writing based. Like, I didn't really think much about it. And then my brothers, they bought me a subscription to alternative press once they had known that I was getting into music, and that was the kind of genre I was getting into. So music journalism was always kind of in the back of my mind until I hit college. When I was in college, I had written an article for my student newspaper. It was called, it was for the University Observer, and it was on 5 Seconds of Summer's fourth album, Calm, and how it was absolutely snubbed on the charts and how upset I was about that. And then the next year, I went to go apply for an editing position with the University Observer, and they said to me, well, we don't think you fit this section. How about the music section? And I remember thinking, like, it's not really what I want to do. And then about a month in, I was like, oh, wait, no, this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
Then I kind of started, like, my brother also does a music podcast. It's called Better Yet. He's basically been interviewing musicians for the last 5 or 6 years. And when I got into the music journalism position, he kind of threw me a couple of contacts and was like, here, if you can kind of handle these well, we'll see where you can go. And then from there, it was just trying to find as many people as possible to contact and always just trying to reach out. Like, at one point, I DM'd Skylar a record of Issues, and I was like, hey, I'm really interested in this instrumental release you did. Would you want to do an interview with me? And he was like, yeah. So I think it really, really all started for me in my college publication. And yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm also a big 5 Seconds of Summer fan, so.
Oh, yeah. No, they're, I've got tattoos for them and everything.
Oh, me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay, what do you have? What do you have? I'm interested.
I have the tally marks.
Okay. I also have the tally marks, and then I have 4 song titles. So basically,
Nice.
I got 4 of my favorite songs written in their handwriting.
That's
and I got them tattooed.
Which songs?
So I got Babylon, which is probably still my favorite 5 Seconds of Summer song. I've tried, like, it just has such a special Jet Black Heart as well, but that's kind of like a fan favorite. Like, I feel like that's it's such a good song. Yeah. I remember I went and I saw them at Royal Albert Hall for their Feeling of Falling Upwards gig, and my best friend Maddie, her favorite song was Jet Black Heart, and she just clung to me for dear life. Yeah, it was a good time. And I also have Old Me in 2011, so I have quite a few.
Some of my favorites as well. So when you're writing, how do you differentiate yourself in your style?
So you mean, like, how do I kind of approach things differently?
Yeah, I would like make it so it's not like something that anyone could have written.
So I definitely take the fangirl kind of perspective on it. I like to kind of write from this idea of, like, these are all bands. Like, I've been very fortunate to interview a lot of bands that I loved growing up and the bands that I was really interested in and bands that have come since then. And I kind of have always approached it with this idea of, like, because I think everyone, or a lot of women and also boys who are a fan of music, can identify with being that fangirl, like that overexcited, like, oh my God, this is a band I'm really into, and now I get to sit down and talk to them. And so I always try, and I also try to take a little bit more of a personal approach as well. I try to humanize musicians as much as possible, because being a fangirl, you also understand that they are people. And I think that that's important as well. So I think I kind of approach it from like this fangirl perspective in the beginning, but by the end, it's a pretty kind of like, this is a person, this is someone who is doing music because they love it, not just because they're being, promoted to do it, or, kind of advertised to do it. So I think the most important thing, and the thing that I love, is trying to make it as personable as possible.
That's great. That's good. I think it's just, I think like writing is one of those things where it might be difficult to write different because you don't know how people are gonna read things, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's important to have your own style and your own way of writing things, which I feel like the fan perspective is a really good one. I mean, we love being fans here. We are fans ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that should be embraced as well. I've found that there have been old publications in the past that have taken a very rigid standpoint and have kind of put these musicians on pedestals and made them really inaccessible. And I think that kind of hinders the image of the artist, because it makes them seem untouchable and not like an actual person. Yeah. And I think the best way, I think from my own point of view, I've always wanted to feel quote unquote connected or personally understand an artist. Like that's kind of always been a goal for me, to not just be focused on, the stuff that I just want them to be people. And I think that it's becoming a lot more popular lately to be authentic and be yourself, especially with the whole conversation about social media and creating unreal expectations, and you're only seeing snippets of these people's lives. So when you're only seeing snippets of these people's lives, it's so easy to, just get out of touch. And I think the best way and the most important thing that I think musicians can do is be real and connect with their audience and connect with their fans in a way that's authentic, because to me, that is the most personable. That's going to have people who identify with your lyrics more. It's going to have people who will kind of go to bat for you more. I think it just creates a really good relationship. And I find that like artists who do that have a very strong fan base and will continue to have that strong fan base years later.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
How is your writing process when you're gonna start writing something? What is your whole process to get there?
So that's always interesting, because I love asking musicians this question as well. So thank you. This makes me feel really important. But with the writing process, it always comes from a different place. Like I always have like PR stuff coming in my inbox and stuff like that. So I always try and stay up to date with what's coming out. But I also try and listen to a bunch of different music and see what sticks. And then eventually I kind of get to a point where I'm really like, oh, I really like this song, or I really like this artist. There's this one thing about this artist that I like. I kind of want to write about it. And a lot of the times as well with interviews, it's a matter of like, I work really closely with one publicist, and he knows me very well. So as soon as he kind of gets something that he thinks I'd be interested in, he immediately sends it to me. So I'm very fortunate in that aspect. But I also work really, really well under deadlines. As hard as I try to like write stuff as early as possible, I genuinely think that this is the US school system like instilled in me from having to take so many standardized tests and having to do standardized tests in a certain amount of time. Yeah, I just can't. So, I've been a lot better since I've written for alternative press. Like I've, worked on it days in advance instead of just being like, oh shit, the deadline's in about 3 hours. So, gotta like type up a 3,000 word interview. See how this goes. But I think it's being open and being open to inspiration from anywhere. Like my partner is very into music as well. So he always has his ear on the ground for a different kind of side of music than I do. So, we're always bouncing ideas off each other. Like if I'm like, hey, here's a pitch idea I have, what do you think of it? And he's like, I would like to read something like that, but maybe tweak it like this. And so it's just, for me, the process is always starting off with that idea And I got some really good advice from one of the editors that I'm working with at the moment, is like try and do outlines. So I'm finding that outlines are actually helping with me getting things done on time. Well, not on time, but like not waiting until the last minute, because I actually have an idea of what I'm going to do. And then I kind of do some outlines, and then eventually it just goes back and forth between editors until the editor's like, yeah, this is good. Let's, run it. Yeah, my process, I wish it was something fun. Like I, hiked to the top of one of the mountains in Dublin, and I sat there and I meditated and I thought, and, let the universe bless me with a bunch of ideas. But unfortunately,
I mean, you could say whatever you want. There's no way for us to know.
Everything she just said, that's not how it actually goes. She
no,
actually
absolutely
goes hiking and writes.
Oh yeah, I'm walking and I have a journal in one hand and I have a pen in the other, and I'm just like, I wish I was that productive.
What do you think is the importance of music journalism?
So the importance of music journalism is, I think, kind of goes back onto the authentic and kind of being a personable musician. I think music journalism is a way to deep dive and understand musicians in a way, and music in a way, that doesn't always meet the eye or ear straight away. I think it's an opportunity to kind of pick musicians' brains, especially when you have highly successful musicians who are obviously insanely good at what they do, and you're like, okay, as someone who would be quite considered a pleb, please explain, because it's so, to me, music is such a personal experience, and everyone has a different journey with music, and everyone has a different relationship with music. It doesn't matter, like, you can have the most similar relationship, but because of the experiences you've had in the past, you're going to relate to music differently than everyone else. I mean, everyone's going to have their own individual experience, and I think music journalism is a way for people to find bits and pieces of themselves in the musicians, and find bits and pieces that they connect to, and that they can really be, just, for lack of a better term, again, I'm repeating myself, but like, connected. And I'm going to kind of go back on this one moment where, like, music journalism is vital. It can make or break someone's career. Like, since you said you're a Five Sauce stan, I'm just going to bring up an article that you probably know that I'm going to mention. The Rolling Stone article.
Oh, yeah.
Back in like 2017. And like, that just was basically the entire fandom crashing down in on itself because of how, I think, hurt a lot of people were by like the stuff that had been said. But I think it just goes to show that I think it was a wake-up call for the band, but it was also a wake-up call for kind of this idea that, like I said, people are put on these pedestals. And I think journalism can obviously reveal things that are not exactly likable, but also deserve to be known. And I think that article also gave Five Sauce the opportunity to not rebrand, but really refocus on what was important. And I think that journalism causes a lot of introspection as well. It causes you to kind of look inwards, and you find pieces of things that you can identify with. And it's important because everyone at some point in their life is going to have some kind of experience with music. And, there's nothing better than thinking, oh shit, this is one of my favorite songs ever, looking it up and seeing, oh, there's someone else who also thinks that this song is great. They've written all about it. I want to see what they think. And, it's also a way for people to connect, like fans to connect with each other. And, like, especially with Twitter and social media nowadays, where as soon as an article goes up and they tweet out the link, people are getting into the comments, they're having discussions. Like, I had a very controversial opinion when I wrote this article for Alternative Press about Five Sauce and ranking their albums, and everyone was pissed that I ranked Sounds Good, Feels Good so low. But it caused a discussion, and it caused people to actually, like, be like, oh, I like this. I like Sounds Good, Feels Good because of these reasons. And I was like, I liked Calm because of these reasons. And it's just, it creates a dialogue. And I think that it can also be a very inclusive space because everyone at some point listens to music. And granted, it's really hard when you're in the industry And the whole inclusivity thing becomes very different. But as a fan who is consuming music, it is very inclusive. And I think that journalism can just bring people together if they let it.
I love that response.
Thank you. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here. So, we're just...
That's okay. So, do you have something you like to write about more than anything else?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely an interview person, but I think that was kind of obvious from the answers that I was giving about like wanting to talk to musicians and like being able to understand them. And I always find that interviews are such... I'll never forget my first interview. My voice was shaking the entire time. I was so nervous. Like I just couldn't, But over time, I've developed this ability to be able to kind of talk and, and it makes me feel like my love for music is valid. Like in this very weird sense of like, I'm so obsessed with music. I love it so much. And like I hear, these musicians, they're passionate about it. They understand. I'm like, okay, it's not just me being, crazy. But interviews as well, when you're writing them up, are really kind of interesting because you look at the interview in a different way as well. Like you notice all of these mannerisms and it completely humanizes them. And that's something that I also include in my interviews, when they have like a certain fidget or when they're doing things or like, just to kind of create that image of personality and personability. But I also love writing reviews. I've definitely held back a little bit with my college publication because I've always felt like, there's so much negativity out there. I don't really need to say anything too bad, but I'm looking forward to kind of, being able to really just let it loose because, I think that the current music industry and I are very like, I don't trust the current music industry. So I'm very much focused on the alternative side of things. So, yeah, because I just like writing reviews about artists that I'm just like, listen, they're hyped and they shouldn't be. And they're getting all of these resources and this fame. And there are so many more musicians that have, market ability. I think my love for interviews also comes from, I just like to talk to people. I moved around a bunch. So I grew up always being able to make friends. It was never a difficult thing for me. I would make friends. I would always talk to people. It was just like natural. And I think that when I got older, I kind of shied away from that. But now that I'm in these interviews, I can kind of be that chatty, bubbly sort of, person again. And it's nice. It's a little bit of like kind of fulfilling some childhood, dreams.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So going off a little bit of like childhood dreams, if you could interview anyone, who would you choose? Or who would it be?
Can I give you like 3 because I've got to talk?
Yeah. You can give us as many as you want.
And definitely, I'm gonna save 5 sauce for last one until when I talk about this because I've already talked about them a lot. But Paris is one of my favorite bands ever. I mean, the chokehold that Lynn Gunn has on me, unmatched. I think as well, now that it's kind of just become just her and she had like the 2 other members kind of phase out, it's really just put into perspective how brilliant she is because she's writing her own stuff, she's recording her own stuff, she's producing her own stuff, she's mixing her, like it's all her. And so when
she's a genius.
And it's especially, it kind of came to light with like the Hallucinations 2020 EP or not EP album. But like it was just like, I've always been a fan of pop, but to a certain extent, and the way that she managed to kind of weave the pop in with a lot of not quite industrial, but different influences and genres was really, I was like, wow, okay, this is one person. Like this is not just, so that was mind blowing to me. And then after that album, I started going through their discography again, and I found their second album. I think it's All We Need of Heaven, All We See of Hell, or so it's one of those 2. It's like
that's one of my
it's the one, but like that's one of my favorite. I love how I'm about to say it's one of my favorite albums, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it is because like
it's just a long name. It's a long name.
I'm like, I'm like,
So that's okay.
like 2 or 3 of my all-time favorite songs are on that album. So that would just be someone I would love to sit and talk about and be like, yo, what the hell goes on in your brain? Like, I am genuinely curious because like to create like that piece of work, there's got to be a lot going on. So just kind of,
Yeah.
And then I would probably say Paris. Oh, this is going to be another one. So Too Close to Touch is a small scene band that I found back in 2014, I think. It's really hard because I loved them for ages, and last year the lead singer passed away.
That sucks.
And like that was a band that I always listened to when shit was real rough. Like it's like the struggle band. Like it's like it's like if I was listening to them, it was like you want to make sure
if it was the raining scene in a movie.
Absolutely, you just want to make sure my door's open a crack just to make sure there's nothing going on. But like, I really identified with a lot of the lyrics, and the lyrics were just, it was a lot of suffering and a lot of pain. Like there's so many songs where you can hear just how emotionally like it was hitting him, and to just have that kind of ending and to pass away so young, I would have loved. Like I was actually at one point I was trying to get a hold of the drummer for an interview, and then 2 weeks later they announced that he passed away. So I would have loved to have the opportunity to talk to him, because his way of lyrics as well was just something that I connected with. And then lastly, 5 Seconds of Summer. But that's because I've been a fan since 2012. So like I was 11 years old.
Me too. We're the same age.
You're 22?
Oh, no, I'm 21. But I'm almost 22 in June.
Wait. No, that doesn't make you Cancer. Does it make you Cancer?
Barely, by like one day.
I was going to say, I'm an Aquarius by one day. I'm on January 21st and the cusp is the 20th. So,
it's the same thing with Cancer.
Yeah. So, I was like, I keep kind of referencing it because I don't want to talk about it too much because, sob stories, but like, didn't have a greatest time growing up. Well,
I mean, you can talk about whatever you want.
Okay,
We're not going to judge you.
I guess then this is like the perfect time, because I've always kind of wanted to preach about Five Sauce in this way, so I'm going to.
I can preach about them all day as well.
So. Okay, perfect. I'm glad we're in this together. My mom passed away when I was 8 years old, and thank you. It's been nearly 13 years, 14 years. I found them, and it definitely became an escapism. That's sort of like, I don't have to think about everything that's going on in my life outside of, because at that point it was still Keeks and YouTubes, and they were really involved, and it was a way for me to just not have to think about everything that was going on at home. And then when I was 12, I tried to take my life, and I ended up in the hospital, and my mom's sister took me in. So after my mom's sister took me in, she remarried her ex-husband, and with those two, they have 2 sons. And so I was introduced to this new family dynamic, and I felt so out of place. I mean, like, there are people who have 20, 25 years of life together, and I'm just kind of rocking in like, oh, what's good? Emotionally traumatized to fuck. But like, it was what it was, and Five Sauce kind of became that stability for me, kind of became that kind of thing that I could always go to no matter what. I felt safe, and it was really strange because I have such a difficult time with men, but like with them, it didn't really seem, and I could just get lost in it. And like, they've gone through very similar phases of life at the exact same time I have. So like, their first release was like kind of young, carefree, doesn't quite understand what's going on. Second release was very like, oh shit, this gonna be a wild ride, buckle up kind of thing. And then when they went on the hiatus, I had actually kind of I'd moved to Ireland with my parents at that point, And so when I started seeing this guy who was like, you can't listen to them, you know, you had a crush on them, you used to write fan fiction about them, you know, what, it just did not want me in any way involved. So by the time him and I had broken up, Youngblood was just about to be released. So if you can't tell
That's
me,
the perfect sign.
you can't exactly. And you know, that was a relationship, that was like an album about like really bad relationships and toxicity, and you know, so I was relating to that. And then Calm was very much coming of age and maturing and a lot more. And you know, 5 Sauce 5 is very like kind of understanding and beginning to understand what the world is, not what the world's about, but what you stand for, what, you know, you're going through. And so they released all these albums at like the exact same time that I needed them, like the perfect time that I needed them. So it kind of always solidified that bond and that adoration for them. You know, I was like, okay. So I think for me, there's one question I have always wanted to ask. I almost got to ask it at a Q&A and they fucking forgot about me. And I got pissed off about it. I was 15 and I was mad. But I've always wanted to ask them, what are the artists they go back to when they're going through a rough time? Because like they're that artist for me. Like whenever I'm going through a rough time, 5 Sauce on immediately. Me too. So like I've always wanted to know, like, okay, what are the bands? Like, what are the albums? What are the artists? I don't care. Like, what holds that emotional significance for you the same way that you guys hold this emotional significance for me?
Yeah. So if anyone from 5 Sauce happens to be listening,
yes,
we would like to know.
Yes, I would absolutely love to know. And I would also love to know, are you guys available for an interview? But no, seriously, like that would be kind of, I think, peak career moment for me if I ever got to do the two that I could, really.
I mean, I literally have Paris on my vision board as someone I want to have on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She just, it's also the artistic side of it as well. It's the music videos, it's the visuals, it's like a whole experience. Like that's one of the things that I've noticed a lot about musicians nowadays is they're creating this whole experience. And rather than it just being music, like there's, you know, there's visuals, there's kind of plots and stuff like that as well. And everything has just become so much more involved. And I think a major player in that was Taylor Swift. And kind of creating that tangible, like I'm not a Swiftie, but I have so much respect for her. I definitely think she's changed the way that fans and artists interact and kind of the way that artists present their music to their fans. Because that woman works overtime. What other bands have kind of really gone visual? Like Too Close to Touch was a band that kind of focused on visuals as well and experiences. And I Prevail has gotten really kind of their shows specifically. I went and I saw I Prevail. They are like a new metal group, if you guys don't know about them.
Yeah, I think I heard them when they were doing covers on YouTube, kind of like doing like pop. Yes, like that's that's the version I listened to of that song.
No, I'm not gonna lie, punk pop has a chokehold on all of us. I swear to God, because there are some pop songs that as much as you love them, it's not that you can't stomach them. It's just sometimes you're like, I just need a little bit of, a little bit of
anger.
Yeah, exactly. So I love them, and like their set was incredible. And I definitely think that there's a lot to be said for live bands and studio bands. That's become very apparent to me as a journalist as well. Is people who can record really great records, but they can't really perform, or it's their records are decent, but their live is just so much better. And I think that was how it was for I Prevail. I mean, like they're great in the studio, but like their set was fucking amazing. And I had a really cool view of it because I was in the boxes. I interviewed Blind Channel, who was opening for I Prevail, so I got guest list, and I had so I could see everything, like I could see the stage and I could see the entire crowd. And it was in this tiny ass theater in Dublin, and I didn't think it was big enough to hold a mosh pit, but I stand corrected. I was impressed. it makes me think, when I think about live bands and stuff, it makes me think of COVID. Obviously, it's something that's going to be talked about. I started doing music journalism in 2020. So I was elected to that position, and it was the entire year that I was music editor. I couldn't go to a single gig. Like, there was, it was that aspect of being a music journalist and getting involved and seeing the community and seeing these bands that I've been talking to. Like, I just, that wasn't a factor. And I think it's definitely changed my perspective on like the live scene as well and how important live music is. I mean, I think everyone knows that it's important, but like how especially important it was after COVID, like needing to kind of connect all of these people who have just spent like 2 years apart, who don't know how to socialize anymore, and, putting them in a social setting.
Yeah. Okay. So, so far, what's the best advice you have ever received?
Or I've received the best piece of advice I have. I won't lie. My brother Tim, if he listens to this, he's going to be so chuffed with himself because I've talked about him twice. So my brother Tim was the one who does the post. And he said to me, because I remember emailing him, like, how do I contact these publicists? Like, how do I not look like an idiot? And I think,
how do you sound professional?
Yeah.
It wasn't even like professional, but it was more of just like, how do I not, like, I'm literally asking for like, I don't know. I was always afraid of people kind of laughing in my face and being rejected. And I think that that's a very common kind of thing when you first start out, until you start sending dozens of pitches and they all get knocked down, but eventually one sticks. But like, that's just the nature of the industry. Like, he always just said to me, he was like, no one's going to judge you for sending the email. No one's going to sit there, open their inbox and go, haha, look at this idiot. No. If they don't have the time for it, they're probably just going to click out of it. You might get a response, and you might even get a better response, but you don't know if you don't know if you don't try. And he just kind of said to me, like, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like, this is what, if you want to be a music journalist, this is what you have to do. You have to be proactive. You have to be on top of things. You have to be the first person in line asking for an interview. You have to be, one of the first 5 people to email a publication when they're taking freelancers. You just have to put yourself out there. And you really can't do anything if you don't. Like, so I think another thing as well is to have confidence in yourself. And that's something I definitely still struggle with. Even though I've written for alternative press, I constantly have like this imposter syndrome of like, I'm just a fangirl writing for this really prevalent music publication. I don't know what I'm doing. But in reality, I kind of do know what I'm doing. It's just having that confidence in myself and actually believing that I can do it. So that's probably the best piece of advice that I've received. And, it's helped me be a lot more fearless and like send out emails to editors that like, even though I don't think I'm going to get a response, at least I sent the email.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's very similar to what we're doing right now. Because we're like a newer podcast and everything. And sometimes we're just like, should we email this person? Like, are we too new for this? Or are they too big for us? Or like, should we wait a couple months more to send the email? Should we wait a year? Are we going to get a response?
I completely understand that, especially coming from a perspective where I was in a small college publication. Like, I wasn't writing for a known music magazine or anything like that. I had one publicist who took a liking to me, and he gave me the confidence to kind of go out and ask those questions. And eventually it's one of those things where as soon as you have one person, like as soon as you have the one person that you can be like, oh, I've interviewed this person, boom, that's all it takes. And the big thing is, like I said, I DM'd Skylar Record, complete shot in the dark. Didn't think I was going to get it. And he responded and he was like, yeah, I'm down. And ever since then, it was a little bit easier for me to get interviews because I had, that one big name behind me. And I think that considering yourself too small or not big enough is really limiting because you can go so many different places with it. Like at one point, I only had 20 people contributing to the music section for me. At one point, I have over 100. So it's just a matter of not letting what you are doing currently limit you from what you could be doing in the future. I think, like I said, send that email, send that DM, call that person, and if it's someone that you're really interested in, be persistent. Be persistent. I think it's just kind of pushing aside the fact that, you know, the kind of personal aspect of it and being like embarrassed and just being like, this is what people in my industry need to do. We need to be aggressive. Not aggressive, but we need to be persistent. We need to be put ourselves out there, because otherwise we're never going to get an answer back.
So what right up to now would you say is the highlight of your career?
Oh God, it feels weird for me thinking I have a career. No, I think one of the highlights, I've actually had a couple in the last couple of months, which has been really great. Oh, one of them was definitely interviewing Miles Kane. He's a big guy in the UK. Don't know if you guys have heard of him. Obviously you guys have heard of the Arctic Monkeys.
Yes, absolutely.
So Alex Turner has a side project with Miles Kane called The Last Shadow Puppets.
Okay.
So I interviewed Miles Kane, and that was pretty fucking cool. He was great. That was only like my second year in, so that was like a really big interview, because, you know, he has quite a big following. So that was quite intimidating, especially for being a college publication, because he asked me during the interview, he was like, which one's this for again? And I was like, college. You know, I'm legitimate, I'm professional. But he was just so kind, and he was funny, and you know, that was pretty cool. And then I think the most recent two, I've definitely been going to the I Prevail gig after interviewing Blind Channel, but then having the guy from, like, one of the vocalists from Blind Channel recognize me from my interview and actually, you know, kind of motioned to me from the stage, which I thought was really nice. I was like, oh wow, okay, I guess, you know, it was nice. And they were always, the interview went so well, they were so polite. And then I would probably say getting published with Alternative Press, because it was a childhood thing. Without it, you know, just growing up and seeing all these names in print and seeing all these interviews that I used to love, and then having, you know, all the photographs in the center, like right in the middle, like all the band photography, I just ripped that shit out and I would put it all over my walls. And just to kind of see my name on their website was very surreal. And then to actually have, because I interviewed a band from Drogheda called Modern Love. They are a 4-piece. They're kind of reminiscent of the 1975. It's a very modern, it's like the very kind of new modern alt pop that's going on at the moment, and they're fantastic. Okay. And I've interviewed them twice, and then on my third time I pitched them to Alternative Press, and Alternative Press said yes. And, you know, so I got to give a small Irish band some coverage in like one of the biggest publications in the US, and that was, you know, that felt really great for me. But then coming back and being like, hey, I kind of want to write another article for you. Can it be about five sauce? And like, I didn't tell her I was a massive fan, but it was still that much. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get paid to write about my favorite band. Holy shit. But just that moment of like, wow, being a fangirl can actually, you know, so that would probably be a pretty big highlight. And those, you know, it feels really weird because they're so recent. It's only been in the last like week or so, but like still feels good.
Yeah, I mean, how do I put this together? I forgot what I was gonna say.
No, I've definitely been there. I've been there, especially when they're just like kind of sitting there staring at the camera, and they're like, "What you gonna say?" And I'm like, "Brain gone, not working." And then you have to like come up with something really random on the spot, and then you just think back to yourself,
yeah, that's just me half of the time.
No, don't worry at all.
The time I'm just like, so, and then I just forget.
And then I finish off what you were saying.
But
that's how it works. That's a good pair. That's a good someone who's gonna finish your sentences for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna let Mackayla finish for me whatever I was gonna say.
You were going to say something about how it doesn't matter how small your career is, that you can still have highlights and they're still important.
No, it is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Is that what you were trying to say?
I think I was trying to put something like that together.
I
don't know if I would have said it in those words, but definitely something like that.
The brain cell is working. The brain cell. Yeah, I think being young as well, there's a lot of, I think this is something that's being discussed a lot more, is like the pressure to do absolutely everything when you're young. And like, you know, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. Or, you know, you got to start young. You're never going to have success when you're older. You know, like that kind of toxic mentality of like, you have to be the hustle culture. And the hustle culture is fucking exhausting. And it definitely, because you're constantly quote unquote hustling and trying and doing all this stuff, like all the victories kind of seem small in that way because you're always working towards this bigger picture that people are constantly hounding you about. So sometimes it is kind of hard to sit back and go like, oh, you know, I'm actually doing an okay job.
Yeah. What is your favorite piece that you have written so far?
Okay. I have a couple. So, one of my favorites is actually an interview with Jeremy Boehm from Touche Amore. My brother works with him quite a lot, but I got that interview, I think it was my third or fourth interview ever. And the fourth release that they had talked about Jeremy Boehm's, his mother passed away from cancer. And so him and I got to have this real and frank discussion about like losing your mother, but also, you know, his mom was very religious and he wasn't. And I kind of had the same experience. So we kind of got to bond over that, you know, and it read really well because it was honest and he wasn't afraid to be open. And I think that's because, you know, that's one of my favorite pieces because of his vulnerability and his willingness to talk about it. And also kind of not bond, but like for me to be able to understand what he's saying at a deeper level, I think was really nice. And then I would say this is one recent article. It's 5 Sauce 5 Supremacy. It was, I think it was 3,000 words on my experience at Royal Albert Hall and the release of 5 Sauce and like the kind of 5 Sauce 5 in the album. And that was just my favorite to write because it was like, I was the ultimate fangirl in that setting. Like I was, you know, I literally started the article with, how does it feel to know that your music editor has, for the last 3 years, has been for a 5 Sauce stan? Buckle up. It's going to be a good one. And but it was the kind of the ultimate fangirl experience captured, you know, like that feeling of like waiting outside the venue, almost like shaking in your boots because you're like, holy shit. And especially it was nerve-wracking because we bought secondhand tickets, so we didn't know if they were gonna work. And we flew from Dublin to London, and I will never forget. So I'd originally bought one ticket by myself on a website, and then I met this girl and she wanted to go with me, so we ended up buying 2 tickets together. And I get an email from the original place I bought my ticket from, which I put on resale, saying, thanks for contacting us about your fraudulent ticket. So if I had gone myself with that one ticket, I wouldn't have gotten in because the ticket was fake.
Oh my God.
But like, it was just, I think it was also just fun because my editors just kind of let me have at it. And they're just like, right, just give her something. She's not going to shut up about this. So just, you know, just let her do her, let her do her thing. And it was just a fun article to write because I was reminiscing and I was, you know, going like, wow, this is, you know, it's just, I think that one. And then probably my Modern Love feature for alternative press because I really like them as a band and I really hope they go far. So for me, it was like, cool, I get to kind of try and help them in some way.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Very fun feeling.
It's like, it's kind of living the ultimate fangirl dream. Like, I definitely know that, like, my younger self was kind of looking at me like, she's doing pretty good. You know, never thought that I would be in this position, especially at a young age, and being like, I'm 22 years old and I just got featured in a big publication. Like, that's a big thing, especially, you know, considering I felt like I didn't have a lot of prospects growing up and I didn't have a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for our last question, we ask everyone, what is the soundtrack of your life?
Oh, okay. I just love seeing the reaction of people every time we ask this question.
Yep.
Because everyone is like, oh, is it just one song? Or is it multiple songs? Can I do everything from my childhood? And it's like, it's up to you.
For you to interpret the way you want.
Especially like because it's soundtrack. If it's soundtrack, I don't think it's just one song. I think it's, you know, multiple songs. So
it could be one song if you only, you know, your soundtrack is one song. Who knows? It's your soundtrack.
Unfortunately, I have thought I was the main character my entire life, so I have a lot of songs that I think about would be my soundtrack. But God, one of the first songs would definitely be "If You Could See Me Now" by The Script. It's off their third album. It's about one of the members who have lost both their parents. And I think for me, I really identified that was my first time experiencing a song that was actually talking about what I was going through and like that feeling. And so I think that was a very early on indicator for me, or like a really early on started my love for music. And then I'd say Everlong by the Foo Fighters, because that was the first song I ever heard by the Foo Fighters. And that's what kind of got me into the other music. And then Who Are You Now by Sleeping with Sirens off their third release, Let's Cheers to This. That was the soundtrack of my little emo-ness. And the song lyric, sometimes you gotta fall before you fly, we're gonna work it out, was very comforting to someone who never really was comforted as a child. And okay, I'm still going through. And then Bulls in the Bronx by Pierce the Veil.
Oh my God, that song.
It's the bridge. I am an absolute fucking sucker for, excuse me, I should have asked if I could swear on this, but like,
Yes, you
that's
can.
fine.
okay, cool. It's the bridge, and like I'm a sucker for really melodic, like melancholic bridge.
Yep.
Kind of slow build up into like that soaring, like
Mhm.
boom, drop off. So Bulls in the Bronx definitely kind of started that love, but it was also because
Yeah.
it was. I'm trying to go through the song lyrics in my head because I wanted to get it tattooed at one point. If I ever meet Vic Fuentes, I want him to write down this for me because all of my tattoos are handwriting. So I'm trying to stick to a theme, and it's so darling, close your eyes because you're about to miss everything. That for some reason always just stuck out to me. And then The Storm by Of Mice and Men. I know we shouldn't really talk about Of Mice and Men because, you know, their old vocalist, as much as I loved him, was not a great guy. But that song was just very emotional and it really got to me. And then I'm going through these. Like, there's like a playlist in my head that I'm going through. Then I would say Low by Sleeping with Sirens. I was definitely a big Sleeping with Sirens fan when I was a kid. It was them
Me
and
too.
Crab Sauce. Oh yeah. I met Kellen Quinn when I was 12 years old and my legs were shaking so bad he asked me if I was okay. I was not okay.
I have to say, I've never been to any of their concerts
I've seen them for
just because I've never got the chance. I do have like almost all the albums. Like I bought them. I
Yeah.
think I played them maybe like once or twice on a
Yeah.
CD player, but
Oh yeah, I remember collecting
yeah.
CDs when I was younger as well. That was a big thing.
I still collect CDs.
I still buy them. I don't have anywhere where to
moved on to
play them, but
unfortunately, I'm
I
definitely
have both. I collect both.
Yeah, it's expensive. Like, to put it in like to perspective, I used to work in a bar and like I'd have to work 3 hours in a bar for one vinyl. One, you know, like that's fucking ridiculous. Sorry.
yeah.
I just wait for them to go on sale.
Oh yeah, that's the smartest thing to do. And it's like, but the thing is, I found that they're not doing sales as often anymore because everyone wants them and they're in demand. And then I would say Passed Away by 5 Seconds of Summer. That's a huge one for me. Love that song. I almost got that instead of Jet Blackheart. But I already had a Callum Hood tattoo in his handwriting, and because Callum kind of features mainly on that song, I had to pick a different one. I'm a lunatic, I know. But and then I would say I got into I Prevail, Lifeline, huge, and then Paris, Winter has been a soundtrack at one point, definitely. Winter by Paris was huge, and then so was What's Wrong. Pretty much any song off the second album is kind of a soundtrack, so just, you know, stick that and just the entire album.
Yeah.
Babylon by 5 Seconds of Summer, definitely. I've cried on my floor many times to that song.
That's one of their most underrated songs. People just, it doesn't seem to get that much hype.
See, I saw them in Dublin when they started their tour after COVID, and so there was no set list out or anything. And when I tell you, I would have given absolutely hooking anything to see that song live. I mean it. It's a brilliant song. It's the guitar lick from Michael, and then there's this one video, Callum, like in the deep, deep dark things of Tumblr, where he does a note change live, and it goes into like a falsetto, and I'm like, wow, like this song really deserves more hype. And I think that I also have this moment where I'm like, it was on the deluxe edition. It wasn't even on the full edition. It was on the deluxe edition. So imagine, this is a song that we may have never heard. But also, think about all the other songs that we've never heard. They're probably just as fucking good.
It is a good song. I do have it on my legs.
Oh, yeah. It's just, and then the bass as well is so just, I think they really captured that whole idea of melancholy really well on that Youngblood album. That's, and then, God, I'll talk your ear off about songs. Hold on, give me 1 second. There's one song that I'm thinking, Comatose by Too Close to Touch. That's what I was thinking of. Comatose by Too Close to Touch. Second favorite song of all time. I have them all ranked. I do. I swear to God, I'm not crazy.
Does it ever change?
It's hard for it to change, to be honest, because I'm very much this kind of, songs need to have a lot of emotional significance to me to end up on kind of the soundtrack. Like, I've got my top 100, and at one point or another, I just saw another one. At some point, like, it becomes really hard to be, I don't want to say to get up on the list, but it is, because I have so many of these songs that mean so much to me, but I also enjoy them. So like, it's kind of hard when you have the both of them and you're kind of battling the both of them. But 5 Sauce 5 definitely put a couple of tracks on there. I Prevail's new album, True Power, put a couple on there. I'm really looking forward to Paris's new album, because I hope that puts a couple of songs up there. But How It Feels to Be Lost by Sleeping with Sirens is another one. Absolutely, that entire album helped me through a rough time, but like that song, the title track in particular was really what stuck with me. Crown the Empire. I feel like they haven't been talked about in a while, but Crown the Empire, I think their song Aftermath. That was, it's all about overcoming trauma and stuff, and that was off their 4th release. That was right before Dave Escamillo left the band, and the band went to shit. But yeah, I could go on for ages, but those are definitely the most important.
It's your soundtrack, so it can be as long or as short as you want.
Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed this. I really wasn't knowing what to expect. Like I said, I'd never done a podcast before, but I had fun, and definitely felt very weird to be on the other side of things and have me be in the kind of seat, the hot questions. And yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Sorry. But I really enjoyed this. And another piece of information I always got, especially with kind of freelancing nowadays, is try and like dip your hand in as many kind of different types of media as possible. Whether it's podcast, writing, what else, like videos, content, like whatever you can do, just do it, because that's what's important. And so I don't know, I'm really excited for people to kind of, if they actually care, to kind of hear what kind of got me started.
So do you have any contacts that you want people to follow or anything like that? Any socials?
Yeah. Oh my God, I actually get to plug my socials. This is weird. So you can follow me at bell.ambrosio on Instagram. That is kind of my main thing when all of my portfolio at ambrosiowrites.portfoliobox.net. And Twitter is at Isabella Ambro, 2 A's, and Isabella Ambro. I'm much more active on Instagram than I am Twitter. Twitter scares me, so I try to stay away from it. And yeah, my portfolio, you can contact me through my portfolio. There's a little contact box down at the bottom. So if you want to get in touch for any interviews, reviews, or anything like that, please let me know.
Thank you, Isabella, for coming and talking to us. For our listeners, thanks for joining us. And be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SDO Lives Podcast.